I think they should rename it Microsoft 362.
That joke is a little old. I realize it has new meaning today on the heels of CrowdStrike, but
yeah,
this
CrowdStrike thing is funny because like a lot of people who are reading the news don't realize like there's something like CrowdStrike or tools of that nature, and so you read an article and everyone just thinks Microsoft is down.
Well, and I'll take some, a page out of a lot of people's books who are posting on this right now about this could happen to any EDR AV vendor that operates at the kernel level of an operating system.
Yeah.
Now, it just so happens that this one is Windows, and the Windows Server operating system is still probably one of the most prolific. But just the mere fact that this is affecting airlines and banks and all of these different industries in mass is something that hasn't really happened recently.
It also, like, CrowdStrike, when selling it, they're like, we take care of all the airlines. And it's like, well, should we put all our eggs in one basket?
Well, yeah. I mean, that's the danger, right?
Yeah. If everyone's using the product and the product goes south, but the alternative is what? Open source everything. Like, I'm a big proponent. I had an argument with somebody last week was Mac Admins PSU, and a couple of friends were there, and my friend Rob Calvert was there, and we were having a fundamental argument about using open source within my business versus using all the cloud providers, right? And I was like, I would never use open source products in my business because God forbid something happens to the person who wrote the code, I'm effed. But now here's his argument with, well, you're screwed anyway.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, it just goes to show there is no 100% right answer.
That is a 100% right answer right there. I have a couple jokes about today if you want them. Microsoft outage, but Teams and Outlook are both fine, is the adult version of Snow that doesn't settle enough for a school closure. I thought that was a good one. And then
I like that one.
Somebody sent me, most of the legal industry was unharmed largely but due to Windows 98 and WordPerfect. There's also a post, and I'll send you the graphic of it. Obviously, it's fake, but it's somebody who posted, first day at CrowdStrike, push a little update and taking the afternoon off. And he's like piecing out in front of the CrowdStrike logo. That's a good one. There's nothing you can do but laugh. I got on a call with a new vendor today, which I do want to talk a little bit about it. And they started off with, how was your morning? Because they knew I was an MSP. And I was like, fine, I had a bagel. They were just like, they were very confused by my response. And I was like, oh, you mean because of the CrowdStrike thing? And she's like, yeah. And I was like, no effect auto, because we have Macs and we don't have clients who have these things. So we got into it was just like a really funny, and it's not like Apple people are not prone to this. There's plenty of my colleagues who take care of some Windows things that are being affected by this. But I've never been happier to be an Apple person / Google user as I am today.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, and Google has been unaffected. I haven't had any issues. The one of the interesting things to me is how a lot of MSPs have reacted to this, both good and bad. And I'm not going to point any out individually, on the bad side at least.
Why not? We do it all the time. That's the show.
No, but on the good side, there are companies. I'll point out one, ThreatLocker, who is offering help, offering licenses, offering ways around it remotely. Which one of the biggest problems with this, right, is the issue of a lot of people are having to go on site because this is causing the blue screen of death and causing reboots. And a lot of times you can't get in remotely. And there was a comment on a post, I forget which group it was in, about this and having to go deal with it. And I'm like, dude, this is why you use real server hardware. Because if you had vPro or some other type of out of band access to that server, you'd still be able to solve this remotely.
Where did I see this? I'm going to find this comment because I want to get this right, but I believe it was the CEO, somebody from CrowdStrike, and I'm looking into like one of my here it is. Brody Nisbet, director of Overwatch at CrowdStrike, posted on Twix this morning, because I won't call it X. There is a fix of sorts for some devices between blue screens of death to pick up the new channel file and it remains stable. However, the faulty channel file is so not quite an update. The workaround that the director of Overwatch at CrowdStrike posted is boot Windows into safe mode, go to this particular directory, locate and delete some file and reboot, which means millions of computers need to be physically touched. We have worked so hard to like not have to go on site and not have to touch a computer directly. And here we are, millions of computers have to be touched in order to get this fixed faster than any other in between blue screen of death download that can be happening. Someone else also posted, the Las Vegas Sphere, the big thing that's there. Somebody posted a picture of that with a big blue screen of death across it. It's so bad that it's funny now, right? Like, I do feel bad for the people who are in the thick of it. CrowdStrike, I was just looking at their stock, and this technically started last night, right? Because it followed
middle of the night sometime.
In middle of the night for us because it followed the sun, right? So the update got pushed out in Australia and then backtracked all the way through. Yesterday at 8 p.m., the stock was at 345. And by 9:30 this morning, so 30 minutes after the opening bell, 294. So it dropped a solid 50 points in the overnight, which, to be honest, that's not that bad. I expected it to be way worse when I saw the news. I was expecting like a 200-point drop. But on the other side of that coin, half of the markets can't open because CrowdStrike has broken all their computers.
Fair. I mean, that is like, what is that? A 17-18% drop. So it is significant still.
Yeah. Oh, it's 100%. Yeah, it's definitely significant. I'm just saying, like, they're going to dig. The other thing is they'll be fine. At the end of the day, this is my problem. Now we're going to get political. My problem with like big companies like this, right, is they'll be fine. They'll get through this. They'll fix the problem. Everybody will be like, yes, there might be like, I think the airlines are probably going to be the worst to play catch up for all those canceled flights and such. But CrowdStrike will be fine. And by this time next week, I would suspect the stock to be back where it's at, and they probably, for public view only, fire the CEO. I'm going to call it now that they're going to like fire the CEO or the COO for no other reason than they have to like hang someone. Companies do that all the time. That's what companies do when there's a big F up like this, and this isn't even. Let's call a spade here. This isn't even really a big F up. It's one small thing that got loose, didn't go through QA. The recourse of it is huge, but like the actual problem itself, tiny.
Well, and that's what I'm interested in seeing, right? Because they had to have tested it. There's no way that CrowdStrike let this out without testing it.
Sure.
So what is the magical combination of OS version and CrowdStrike version that caused this to happen? Because I almost guarantee that it's something like that, where it is just the right combination of a certain version of the OS or a certain version of another kernel level application on the device that is causing a conflict, and therefore, Blue screening.
What mix of vinegar and baking soda caused the homemade volcano that is the issue with Microsoft 365 this morning? For the record, I also had to look up what those two chemicals were. While you were talking, I was quickly Googling like homemade volcano ingredients because I forget.
Well, and I think that the big loser here is really going to probably be CrowdStrike's insurance carrier.
Sucks for that. Near.
Elevate your IT managed service provider business with SuperOps, the all-in-one platform that integrates RMM and PSA. Powered by AI-driven insights and automation, SuperOps helps you stay ahead, streamline operations, and boost efficiency. Are you ready for operational excellence? Find out more at atmsp.link/SuperOps.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to All Things MSP Podcast. I'm your host, Justin Escar. With me always my good friend, podcast producer extraordinaire, and man in the blue light, Mr. Eric Anthony. We were just discussing CrowdStrike as part of the cold opening, only because, damn.
Yeah. I mean, businesses were closed today because they couldn't take payments.
I saw a picture. This is the best one, and I'll share with you to put in the show notes. It's a store that says IT issues, closed temporarily, will open as soon as possible. And it's handwritten because obviously they can't print it. It's handwritten on a piece of paper. It's taped to the window. The store is Liquorland in Australia. It's like it's a liquor store. And I just thought like the dichotomy of putting those two things together because this was I was scrolling Apple News, whichever article Apple News was showing me about the CrowdStrike thing, and there's a picture of the CEO looking all stern and like a picture of an airplane, like stock image of an airplane, and then this picture of this handwritten note taped to a door for Liquorland. I thought it was no notes, Apple News, 10 out of 10.
This would be a classic time for somebody who has one of those old-fashioned imprint machines for the credit cards to pull that out and go survive the day with this.
There's like an 80-year-old Glenn Ross salesperson right now being like, you need 15 card imprint machines? I'll have them to you immediately, right away, sir. Like just like able to just do that on the fly.
If you're young enough to not know what I'm just referring to.
That's it. Thanks for listening, folks. If you don't know what Glenn Ross is, and we should do an entire episode about movies every entrepreneur should watch.
Oh, that's a great idea.
That would be a good idea. Send us what movie you use on your list, facebook.com/group/allthingsmsp. If you're driving, pull over and do it. We don't want anyone to get into an accident. We were talking about this in the cold open. It's just amazing how much damage. I was just looking at, I don't know who sent it to me. I'll find it. Someone had made I guess it's an info GIF of all the planes in the air over the United States from, let's say, 6 a.m. or from yesterday until the issue started. And just that, like, first off, it's amazing when you really think about how many airplanes there are on the overhead at any given time. Like right now, I don't hear a single plane, but there's tens of thousands of airplanes over the United States. And the image of these planes and the amount that just it dwindles down to, because there were like airlines, I think you just said it, but like there were planes that didn't want to land because they weren't sure the tower could see them. Like, so there were planes stuck in the air. There were news. I was just watching. If you do watch TikTok and you have TikTok on your phone, Under the Desk News. This person V, she's amazing. She's very left. So, but she was covering the CrowdStrike thing, and broadcasters couldn't get on the air. They just couldn't get on the air. So she was saying that one of the shows that she watched, like the morning broadcast news in Rochester, where she's located, couldn't leave the air because they were afraid they wouldn't be able to get back on the air. So the broadcasters had just been broadcasting all this time, no commercial breaks, no anything. And I'm like, why wouldn't they just bring in other talent? Like, humans are capable of walking still, right?
Right.
Just bring someone else in and put a micro, just swap mic packs. But she made it sound like this person is being like, they're just like, we can't leave the studio. We're stuck in the box forever. Like, but it's amazing just how bad one thing is affecting everyone. We could probably equate this to what it would be like as a small MSP, but I feel like so many of us are being affected by this right now that we don't need to make that analogy.
Yeah.
But you should 100% make this analogy.
What's interesting though is I just thought of this. There's been hype about things before, like Y2K. Like Y2K just kind of came and went with no implications really at all.
Best Buy stickers for Y2K. Do you remember that? The big yellow Y2K, is your computer ready stickers when Best Buy was in its prime. That image is like burned into my memory.
Dude, I did so well that quarter. I created my own little stickers that said Y2K ready. And I literally marketed the fact that we would come out and we would mark your computer. We would test your computers because you had that little thing where you could reboot the computer and it would test the BIOS and make sure it was Y2K compatible. And then we would literally put a sticker on your computer that said Y2K ready.
See? Well, that's okay, fine. That's how we're going to create this back. There are definitely, actually, my mom even sent me a text message this morning going, are you taking advantage of what's happening? Yes, Mom, I'm taking advantage of what's happening. There's opportunity here. This is something that people need to understand. Every time there is a problem, there is an opportunity. The question is, can you, as the MSP owner, capitalize on that opportunity? And the problem doesn't have to be a massive outage issue like CrowdStrike. It could be as simple as like their internet went out. Did you sell them backup internet? This computer went missing. Did you sell them some sort of tool to find it? Those things. So you always have to be looking, and it's almost perverse at how you have to look at every mistake and turn it into a sales opportunity.
Well, but you can also turn that around. And yes, it's an opportunity. Yes, it's a sales opportunity. But let's take the example of using real server hardware so that you have that option to reboot and bypass the operating system, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And do things like a remote safe mode reboot and still have network connectivity. That is an opportunity for you to go to a client and say, hey, things aren't perfect. Things will never be perfect. And there are some things we will never be able to avoid, but this is something we can avoid by using different server hardware so that if this happens with any other application that might be capable of doing this, we can do the same thing.
That's why you shouldn't be using Windows servers for file share. You should move everybody to Synology. That's true. But you're right. The fact is, though, you can do that. There's only so much preparation, right? Because you said this, like nothing's ever going to be perfect. All right, we're going to get you some, we'll break up the server with the virtualized servers into 3 actual servers. We'll spend a couple $1,000, buy some computers, whatever. But the second, because I was thinking while you're saying that, like my joke of like, oh, switch everyone to Synology. The first thing that came to my mind was, what if Synology pushes out a bad update and all the Synologies go offline?
Right.
Because it could happen. This is this situation, because we said in the cold open, like they must have gone through QA, and CrowdStrike's not the kind of company to be like, oops, like they went through this. Keep in mind, there have been times where Apple has done this. Apple pushed out a software update, and it went through QA, and it crashed a couple hundred computers. They pulled the update immediately, so no one else got it, and re-released a new version of the update later that day or the next day or something like that. And that was a couple of years ago. That they haven't done it since. So like even these big companies are capable of being at fault for something.
Yeah. And
so no matter what
to your point on the Synology, right? Synologies have third-party software that is capable of running on them. And therefore, this could have just as easily happened on a Synology, could have just as easily happened on a Linux box. You know,
it wouldn't happen to a file share provider that keeps the file shares in the cloud. They'll remain nameless while we're on this show. But it could. It could.
But the chances are less.
Yeah.
Right.
The other thing is, well, so then is the answer everybody should use a cloud-based solution for everything? Because like you could use Google Cloud Platform or AWS, but those go down all the time. Where's like, I'm confused as to where MSPs should weigh their risk options.
Well, let me ask you
this is terrible. This CrowdStrike thing is terrible.
Right. But let me ask you this. Because the obvious choices are cloud hosted or locally hosted, right? So what is going to be more reliable? AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, or their Office with maybe only one internet connection, at best two, a mobile one if you're lucky, and all of the things that have to go into getting the same type of uptime on a one physical server installation versus having geographic redundancy and connectivity redundancy and all of that. It
comes down to one thing. It comes down to one simple thing: how much money you want to put into it.
Correct. But at that point, you're building your own data center. So
here's a great example. My wife used to work for a company years ago, and we took care of their IT. That's actually how we met. The company ran on FileMaker, and the owner wanted no downtime. And I said, that's impossible. You're running it locally on a Mac Mini, which was fine to do it with. And he's like, I want no downtime. I go, then you need to give me unlimited budget. And he says, okay, tell me what you want to do. And so this is a completely true story. And it's completely like the way I built what I'm about to explain. I recognize just how ridiculous this sounds. This is also 2008, and it's still ridiculous. Mac Minis only have one hard drive, potentially two in them. They had, at the time, FireWire. So this is pre-Thunderbolt. So you could do 800 megabits per second over FireWire. What I did was I took 4 Mac Minis. I took 2 of the Mac Minis, and I did a RAID 1 mirror between the 2 Mac Minis. So Mac Mini 1, Mac Mini 2. 2 was in target disk mode, so the hard drive would show up on 1. That was in RAID 1. I did the same with 3 and 4. And then I had this RAID 1, 2 rated as a mirror to 3, 4. So I basically had it on 4 individual drives. So if any of the computers died, you could just reboot any single one of them at any given time, and FileMaker would work. Yep. It worked. This system worked. We had to actually implement like recovery ones. The problem that we ran into was because 3 of the Mac Minis were in target disk mode, they couldn't control their fans. So the closet that he put it in, like you would open the door and you're like, it's the pits of hell. Like it was that bad. But yeah, it came down to money. And he paid me a lot of money to build out this system. That's what it comes down to. You can put this stuff in the cloud. You can put it in AWS. We have a client who runs a surveying software in AWS. It's got load balancing. It's got redundancy. It's got all these things. Jeff Bezos, fellas, didn't wake up one day. AWS is down. There's nothing we can do. Period. End of story.
Have you ever wondered how much time your team spends in meetings and what the real impact was? Well, wonder no more. With Produce 8's latest release, you're getting insights into meeting effectiveness and productivity metrics that will improve the way you do business. Some of the benefits are seamless integrations with leading platforms such as Google Calendar, Outlook, Microsoft Teams, Zoom, and Slack to help you streamline meetings, especially for your MSP teams. Executive dashboards help gain insights into meeting investments, including salary breakdowns and resource allocation. That gives you enhanced views into profitability. Team sentiment analysis provides understanding of employee morale through user sentiment analysis, leveraging feedback to improve productivity and workplace well-being. Team Empowerment gives access to personalized reports, real-time metrics, and goal-setting features for better work-life balance and productivity control. Explore how Produce 8 is revolutionizing the MSP landscape at atmsp.link/Produce 8. Improve your productivity and propel your MSP business to new heights with Produce 8. Hey, Justin, guess what?
What?
We have a guest today.
I love it when we have a guest. Yes, we have another guest today. I do always say that, and I do always say that, which is weird. Now it's getting very meta. But enough about me. Let's bring on our guest, Mr. Stuart Holtby, founder of Get in Sync. Not the band, not the boy band.
Yeah.
Though if you could get in sync, probably making a lot more money. But we have Stuart, founder of Get in Sync. Stuart, welcome. Thanks so much for being here on the All Things MSP podcast. Give everybody like a 2-minute who you are, what is Get in Sync, and
Sure.
I know you're traveling. Good breakfast at the hotel?
Yeah, it was an awesome breakfast I had this morning. Yeah, I'm traveling. I'm in Nashville today at the Robin Robbins TMT Producers Club thing. And so, yeah, it was pretty awesome here. And yeah, a little bit about me. Of course, I started an MSP way back in the day. And I'm talking way back in the day before they called it MSP. So that was 1989. And yeah, I grew the MSP, and so that's where Get in Sync was inspired out of. Get in Sync is a SaaS product, purpose built for advanced managed service providers who want to boost their margins by solving two interrelated problems for their clients, and that's indecision and the fear of change. That's where all good ideas go to die, is the land of indecision. So we try to help MSPs with that, tackle that problem with a SaaS product. And we can get more into that in the details if you like. But
yeah, no, I do want to dive in this. So the indecision land, which I think I'm the mayor of, that I think is a big thing, right? Because as any MSP wants to sell products or sell ideas, the clients always have a hard time, especially. And it's funny that we were talking today, because I was just discussing with a friend of mine, Alec Wills at a Bitwork, where the client that he's talking to already had an MSP, so they're okay. But the idea of going from no MSP to full MSP is very fearful for clients.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so helping clients get over that fear of change, I'm really interested to hear how your product can help that.
Yeah. So, I mean, we have a structured approach that will allow, people have, like, okay, let's just go back. So you mentioned like trying to sell somebody on a full managed. So we all know selling's hard, but buying's even harder. April Dunford in her book, she talks about, pitching. And in her book, she talks about, she went to buy a toilet. And, she was doing some renovations, and the contractor said, I absolutely need a toilet by noon tomorrow. Go get one. She thought that would be pretty easy. Well, there's 700 models of toilets, and they have extra flush, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so read the book. It's a great book. But what happens is that we get paralyzed, the paradox of choice, and this creates indecision. And particularly if it's, a toilet doesn't sound all that significant. But, if you're putting in something that could affect my job, or maybe my client, or perhaps even the company, there's a lot at stake. So buying is really hard. And so what happens is that we often default to the status quo. We often do nothing, right? So good ideas die the death of 1,000 doubts. And so what Get in Sync tries to help with is put all the cards on the table and narrow down that toilet decision, the buying decision, to what it is you really need. And, this is also, sometimes MSPs are held victim because they come in very late in the sales process, because customers always have done a whole bunch of research online, and they've got an idea, and now they just want you to go and get me one of them things, right? Even if they do make a decision. Usually we get them what they ask for, but it's not what they need. And then if we do that, then we wear it, because then it's like, well, you got me that, and I didn't really need it, and I didn't really use it. So it's that tension that we create, in that indecision and fear that Get in Sync is. That's what we do. We help, work through the complex decision and the complex trade-offs to really make, those informed decisions. So
I have so much to talk about here. Okay, number one, Toto toilet with a bidet. If you get anything else, if you don't get anything. If you get anything other than
kicks
that,
ass, literally kicks ass.
yeah. If you get anything else other than that, you're doing it wrong. So let's start there. Toto toilet with a bidet. Okay, so now that we've got that out of the way, the idea that a client comes with something and then lays it on you and you have to wear it. It's funny because in my side of things as an Apple consultant, Apple will typically sell something to a customer or push something on the customer that's from the Apple market and then ask me to clean it up. And I'm like, that's the wrong product for this customer.
Exactly.
But it's too late now because, and especially because Apple being Apple and Virtua is a little nothing comparatively, who's the client going to believe? The client's going to be, well, if Apple said I need this, and it's like, yes, but Apple, the employee who sold it to you worked there for 4 days and read it in a book. And I've been doing this for 16 years. Who do you trust?
And their business. So
Right.
that particular product won't fit in that particular business. And so
yeah, 100%. Because the number one thing that Apple pushes for mobile device management is Apple Business Essentials. And you can't push Zoom with Apple Business Essentials because it's not an app in the App Store. And I don't know if Apple realizes this, but we live in a post-pandemic world where everything's on Zoom.
Exactly.
You would think they do.
No, because they use WebEx. They're not allowed to use Zoom internally, so I don't think they noticed. But that's neither here nor there.
And that's the difference between being a virtual CIO and just being an outsourced IT services provider.
Correct. And Justin, you pick up on a good point. So, in the world of trying to help your client, how do you help them get through decisions? But how do you know their ideas? And what I mean, I'm not talking about technology ideas, business ideas. So, okay, we want to land that big client. So if I'm, in the construction business, maybe I want to land that school division that's planning to do, 2 new schools. So how can we help our client land the client with, innovative technology? So what's the idea that we don't see that we could help that client with? And then think if you did come up with something, maybe there's a K-12 software package that you could put on, some website somewhere to help the teachers, whatnot, in that construction questions and, Q&A, whatever the product would be, some innovative idea. So, that's where I think the value gets added. And so it's being able to have that line of sight to that strategy so then we can back it up. So if we're invited way too late in the game, we don't get to have that discussion. We don't know the ideas that are rolling around the organization.
So that, I want to make sure I'm understanding this, right? Because the number one thing is everybody always wants a seat at the table and none of us ever get it. To know what our clients are working on, this is what Get in Sync will help with, right? It's allowing us to have that seat at the table to whatever the mechanic is used here, to have the client talk to us to be like, these are the projects we're working on. How can you help us? Right?
Exactly. Not even projects, even as the seed of the idea. So it traps ideas. Like I often ask, MSPs and MSPs clients, like, how do your clients innovate? Well, we need to be more innovative. Okay, well, great to say it, but how do you do that? Well, the way to be more innovative is to trap every idea there is, particularly from the front lines. And is there a mechanism to put ideas into a funnel? Well, that's Get in Sync. So, and again, where we differ from other VCIO software and whatnot is we're more looking through the windshield. QBRs kind of are going the way, from my perspective, they're going away the fax machine. You might need one somewhere and pull it out every once in a while and plug it in, but it's like a rear view mirror. So if you're looking always in the rearview mirror with a QBR. So we're talking about leading indicators. What are those ideas? And I'll just give you a quick story. In my own MSP, I'll never forget, folks running around trying to help our client. And I'm stopped one of our techs and said, "What are you doing?" "Oh, we're moving them." "Moving them? They're moving?" "Yeah, they bought another company." "They what?" So I'm the last to know. The techs at the front line know what's going on with the client. So that was a lost opportunity. I would rather have seen that, understood that the client is buying or acquiring another company. We could have had that discussion. And as it turned out, we lost that client because the company that they bought had another MSP, and you get the story. So you can connect the dots. I could have been more proactive, and if I had seen that coming. So that's
the move story is always a big one, because the amount of clients who come to us after they've already picked out a place, and after they've already had like 3 rounds of architectural drawings before they come to us and go, "By the way, we're moving." My first always is, "I need to see drawings, because if you don't put Ethernet down, I can't help you." And they go, "Oh, we never thought about Ethernet."
Yeah, they
Like,
moved
why are
into
you
an area
calling
that
me
doesn't have
3 months
fiber,
into this
right?
thing? Like, why did you come to me and say we're thinking about moving?
Exactly.
It's hard, I think, for a lot of smaller MSPs to get that language out to their clients of, we are here to help, proactively come to us. Whenever I talk to our clients, I always say, "Listen, if you're not sure we can help, call us anyway. I don't care if you're calling us because the toaster doesn't work. I'd rather tell you we can't help you with this than you not tell us at all."
Exactly. And and so that's where it gets like, so the idea is everything, the idea is the way it should work. It doesn't exist unless it's in Get in Sync. And so the customer actually starts appreciating that, because like as MSPs, we have a lot of tools, but they're facing us. I mean, sure, there's the odd dashboard. Cloud Radio does a good job of that, and those kind of things. But what I'm saying is that there isn't anything that the client can engage in, or very few tools to put their ideas in, so that they can share it with you strategically. And again, back to what you said, a seat at the table.
I'm afraid, though, and tell me if I'm wrong with this. I'd be afraid to do that, because I don't want my client coming in being like, "You guys are screwing up." Now, yes, at the same time, I do want my clients to come in to tell me that we're screwing up, because I want to make sure that we're not. But like, I'd be afraid of opening that gate and letting them come in and say, like, "These are all the things we think is wrong," even though they might not be. Right?
Well, I hear that a lot, but see, then you're kind of taking co-ownership of because particularly nowadays, as the market matures, more and more, Gen Zs, whatnot, they're wanting to sort of self-provision, right? So it does give them that capability. It helps them be a part of it. So, and then again, back to wearing the solution, we all wear it together. You know what I mean? And so we're it's kind of like running a 3-legged race. We're tied together in one leg. If we're not running that race, we're going to fall on our face. And yeah.
Where do you see like trends coming within IT management?
Well, there's a big trend afoot right now with, I don't know if you guys have heard this, but compliance as a service. And we're seeing that come forward, particularly with, I think it's the FCC's, new policies and a number of things. And of course, I think you guys were talking earlier a little bit about the CrowdStrike issue today and so forth. So that's certainly a big piece of it, is to try and help the small businesses be compliant. Just buying insurance nowadays is a difficult exercise for a lot of smaller businesses. So that's another component that is. So this again, we're be careful. You get dangerously close to becoming a lawyer. So one has,
which is okay. My mom still wants me to become one, so I'm okay with it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the compliance thing is funny because, for us, and I've said this on the show a lot, the clients that Virtua has, a lot of them are graphic design adjacent, things like that. And anytime we pick up any client, I immediately go like, are you beheld to any sort of compliance? And they immediately go, no. And I'm like, are you sure? Because they don't know. And with everything that's coming down the pipe, we thought that this was going to be the year where the government made a holistic privacy group, like privacy laws, instead of CCPA or New York Shield or all these other ones, state,
right?
Like have a governmental one. So maybe that'll get 2025. I think even just having that as your level of compliance would be massively important, and people need to start protecting it, because still people are just emailing all willy-nilly whenever they want, and that's definitely a problem, which would be a great idea to put into Get in Sync as the MSP to the client, saying like, hey, I've gotten 4 tickets from so and so about just them email blasting. Why is this happening? And we should put this in the kibosh. Get that on the agenda for that table seat.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Have the agenda. Yeah. So yeah, all of the compliance, regarding, HIPAA, all of the, PII, I can't think of all the alphabet soup, but, and just, again, helping, MSPs can go a long way by also helping them get compliant, not necessarily as a service, but also, really help them, lower the cost of insurance. So if the MSP has the right stack, just like, you put an alarm system in your house, you get a discount on your insurance. Same sort of thing with, with a lot of the brokers out there. If you have a certain stack, you'll get a discount, and so you can help the client save money, so that's a good thing.
Really, my house insurance didn't give me a discount. They mandated I have a burglar alarm.
Well, yeah.
and
depends on the area you're in.
And essential fire. Now it's a barrier. It used to be a discount, but now it's a barrier, which doesn't make any sense, because I live in a pretty nice neighborhood where like the crime rate is pretty low here. And like they were like, no, you have to have it or we won't renew you. And I was like, all right, well,
ouch.
I'm gonna spend money to keep my insurance. Seems awfully weird.
Yeah, like I say, insurance is getting harder and harder. It's a difficult thing.
Does Get in Sync help with the cyber insurance requirements? Because a lot of companies, I find, they just go get cyber insurance, and then they don't do the things that the cyber insurance require them to do, and therefore when something happens, they're no longer covered, and the cyber insurance company is the ones who pocket all the money.
No. However, I mean, our answer is that we do partner with a number of providers that do that. So, one of the things that I think, a VCIO is intended to do, key count management, is you don't have to sell them everything. You know what I mean? Like, you can be that general contractor. You need a plumber, you need an electrician, you need a guy to do drywall, that kind of stuff. Maybe you do some of it. You won't do all of it. And so then you can help facilitate that and organize that, stick handle it, whatever you want to call it. So, those are the kind of things that could go in Get in Sync as an initiative. And, ideas turn into initiatives that turn into projects, which then have an umbrella of programs. So you might have 4 or 5, like if you're moving, you might have 4 or 5 discrete projects that roll up into Move. So that's what Get in Sync tracks. It also tracks all your business applications and whatnot, and gives you that overall health of your organization. So when back in the day when I was asked, I was called into a client, they wanted to talk about costs, and I sat down and I walked through. I was fairly prepared, and they looked at me and they said, okay, so that's what you're charging us. Where's the other $500,000 we're spending? Because they don't view technology just what the MSP is billing. They view it as their accounting software, their CRM software, their the hosting, even their cell phones. Anything that's technology rolls up, and Get in Sync actually manages that as well, in the sense of the overarching budget. There's only so much pie. So if you can help shave some costs off of those other services, more could be funneled towards your MSP sort of thing. So
right.
So I know we're running low on time.
Yeah. So real quick, Stuart, thanks so much for being here. Where can people find out more about you and Get in Sync?
Well, it's getinsync.ca, just like it's spelled or sounds. It's spelled the same way. .ca though, that we're a Canadian company. Always on LinkedIn, so it's just Stuart with a U, so Stuart Holtby. On LinkedIn, and yeah, reach out to me and we can continue the conversation. I really appreciate being on, guys. So
no, and we appreciate you being here. Eric, you're on mute, but any last words before we part ways today?
Well, I just want to say that Stuart, thank you very much for being here. And Get in Sync is a Pitch It contestant for 2024, so we're looking forward to all the great things that happen through that. And if you haven't seen it yet, we did a little episode of a series that we like to call The Pitch is Right. And Stuart and Get in Sync was on that for episode 6, I believe it was. And I'll go ahead and link that down in the post, the comments, the whatever, wherever you see this coming out, so that you can check that out. It was a lot of fun. And Stuart, thanks for participating in that as well.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It's a good format. So yeah, I can't say enough about the Pitch It program. It's intense. So shout out to the guys at ConnectWise for that. So
yep.
Awesome. Well, Stuart, thanks so much. Eric, this has been another great episode. I hope everyone survives the week with everything that's going on.
Yeah. Get home
That's
safe.
Eric. That's Eric. I'm Justin. That's it. Bye.
Thanks for listening. And don't forget to subscribe to us on your favorite podcast platform. You can also follow us on Facebook, but better yet, go ahead and join the Facebook group. You can also follow us on Instagram if that's your thing. And make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel at All Things MSP to catch us in all of our video glory. And last but certainly not least, if LinkedIn is your thing, you can follow us there as well. And a special thank you to our premier sponsors, SuperOps, MoveBot, Gozinta, EasyDmark, and Comtech. And we also want to thank our vendor sponsors. The All Things MSP podcast is a BizPow LLC production.